Good evening. Welcome. Tonight we are going to speak about a very important topic, how to reclaim your balance. The only reason we exist, we are in this world, is because we have parents who are loving. And when you think about it for a second, our parents, they didn't even know how we would turn up, what we would be. And they invited us, they brought us into their family to share their resources, to share their lives. We are an extension of our beloved parents. And therefore, it makes sense tonight, before we start learning about how to reclaim our balance in our life, that we dedicate this class to our loved ones who, although physically they are not here, they are ever so present. Because in the day in and day out decisions we make in life, their shining example influences us every moment of our existence. And that's what this class tonight is all about. Balance. How do we squeeze the most out of our lives? And we are going to explain a biblical commandment, which seems rather obscure. What relevance does it have to us today? But through our class tonight, we will understand how we can grow and how we can take the Torah, and the word Torah means Torah lesson. We can take the lessons from our tradition and make them meaningful and continue being the representatives of our beloved parents. This week was the yahrzeit of Marjorie Kest. I never met Marjorie, but she must have been a magnificent, wonderful lady to implant so much love into her daughter Pam and Jeff and their kids. And the only reason we are able to have a beautiful yahrzeit board is because of Marjorie, because she inspired this loyalty, this sense of connection and representation into her children, Pam and Jeff. And her neshama, her soul, should have an aliyah. Norma Gervitz, I never knew her, although she was the first marriage at a Agudas Achim many years ago in 1948. I can just say that she had to be a wonderful, sweet, kind lady. Her son, Steve, comes to shul whenever we need a minyan. He's there, giving homage, giving respect to those who came before us. It's menschlichkeit. And that is Steve Gervitz. And I wish him and Michelle and the girls long life and much happiness. Solomon Kremet Shuka. He was a great man. He was a man who sent his two sons, Leonid and Igor, to yeshiva in Moldavia. He was not scared of the communists. He was a proud, proud Jew. And he helped people, and he was revered. And his neshama, his soul, should have an aliyah, have an ascent in the heavens above. And to know Rebecca Levy is to love Rebecca Levy. She's such a kind, wonderful, sweet, giving lady. And her beautiful mother, Sarah White. It's her yahrzeit tonight. And I just want to honor her memory with this class. So all of our precious ones, all of their neshamas, all of their souls should be remembered, and we should do a mitzvah, we should do a good deed, because when we do that good deed, we are in effect continuing their lives. They are having an impact, and as we know, life is measured by the impact we make. My friends, as we explained, the Torah has to have a lesson to us during these difficult times. It's not easy. When the entire world has come to a screeching halt, when we're in quarantine, we're just about to break out of this isolation period. My friends, there has to be a lesson. There has to be something pertinent, a lesson in the Torah, which we can use to give us strength, to give us courage, to give us the ability to overcome the isolation, the quarantine, which we have endured never before in the history of the world. And you look into this week's Torah portion, and it's right there. It's obvious. You know, my friends, it speaks about the high priest. The high priest, the most esteemed Jew in the world. It speaks about in this week's Torah portion how he would go into the Holy of Holies, how he would represent the Jewish people with distinction. Everything in the world could be broken up into three criteria: Olam, Shana, and Nefesh, which translates as the world. The holiest place in the world is the Temple Mount, as we spoke about in our previous classes. Shana, time. Yom Kippur is the holiest day. It's the only day in the entire year where we are totally forgiven, absolved from any mistakes we could have possibly made. It says that Yom Kippur is plural, Yom HaKippurim, because we are even able to atone for the mistakes, for the sins of our loved ones who have physically left this world. And finally, the holiest representative we have is the high priest, the Kohen Gadol. These three, Olam, Shana, and Nefesh, place, the Temple Mount, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the year, and the holiest individual, the high priest. The high priest on Yom Kippur went into the Holy of Holies. And it says, it's brought down that when he went into the Holy of Holies, he couldn't take a long time because the Jews were worried. Because if in fact he wasn't virtuous, he would pass away in the Holy of Holies. And you couldn't retrieve him because no one could go in the Holy of Holies. They had a rope tied around him. And if sadly he didn't come out because he passed away, they pulled the rope. And during the time of the Second Temple, when there were many challenges to our people, and sadly, many high priests passed away. They didn't make it out of the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. So, in the Torah portion on Shabbat, we read about how the high priest would perform on Yom Kippur, the holiest day, these special obligations in the Holy of Holies. And Maimonides is a book of laws. And Maimonides says that after Yom Kippur had concluded, the high priest would walk the streets of Jerusalem. People would flock around him. And Maimonides brings to life this story. And then when he got home, there was a tremendous, lavish celebration, not just for the high priest, but everyone around him was so happy. And it was a yontif, it was a festival, because he survived. Why would Maimonides, Rambam, although he based himself on a Mishnah, but why would he record this in a book of laws when it just sounds like a story? What lesson? Because everything in Judaism is about a lesson. What lesson could we possibly derive from this episode in Jewish history of the high priest feasting on the night after Yom Kippur? And the Rebbe explained so beautifully. And the Rebbe asks a question. Hey, do you know that high priest, don't feel so bad, guys. That high priest, he was in quarantine for 1 week. He had to leave his home. And he had to prepare for this awesome day of Yom Kippur. You know what qualification the high priest had to have? He had to have a wife. The Torah learns out Beisai, his home, his wife. He could not perform the holy sacred service of Yom Kippur. He couldn't enter into the Holy of Holies if in fact he had no wife. This is amazing. Here he is for 1 week. He's secluded from his wife. He's isolated. He's in quarantine. And what does he need to go into the Holy of Holies? His wife. How do you understand this? Very, very strange. And the Rebbe explains so beautifully in Likutei Sichos, volume 32, Lamed Beis. The Rebbe says, that is precisely why the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, goes into the Holy of Holies. You know why? Because we believe in Judaism, you need a balance. To be quarantined, to be isolated from the world. You want to be holy? That's great. But that's not the ultimate. Judaism is not about going to a mountaintop in Tibet. I love the Dalai Lama. He's a great guy. But Judaism is not about abstinence and being on top of that mountaintop and meditating. You know who's more holy than someone meditating on a mountaintop? No matter how supreme and how lofty and how spiritual a person may feel on that mountaintop thinking about the secrets of creation. You want to know who's more holy? This public school teacher who goes into the classroom, into the dangerous schools, into a place where they're needed so desperately. That's the ultimate. Not just to enjoy the spirituality of isolation, of not being bothered by people, that being allowed to delve into one's spiritual growth. That's very, very, very important. But it's not enough. The high priest had to take the holiness of the Holy of Holies after Yom Kippur and make a physical meal and celebrate with his physical wife. Judaism is not about isolation. Judaism is about taking the spirituality, taking the holiness of our existence and our Torah and bringing it into your home, bringing it into the streets of Jerusalem. That you know what? Every moment is precious. Every moment has meaning. Every moment has purpose because God is recreating the world every single second. Unfortunately, in my job, I get to meet a lot of people and people have regrets and people said, if only I could have, would have, should have. You want to know something? I told one guy last week, I said, you know, I also have regrets. I also have mistakes that I made. If I could have, would have, should have. And, you know, I succumbed, I messed up, I gave in, made a mistake. Everyone has their closet, their hidden demons, which they struggle with every day. My friends, good news, good news. And you know what the good news is? That there's a book called Tonia, and in this book it says that the person who struggles with their inner demons, the person who struggles with all these temptations, with all these challenges, people, ideas, concepts are ripping. Their minds are battlefields. How are they going to overcome? They're going crazy. It's not easy. Just to keep on target and do what you're supposed to do. Comes along Tanya, this holy book, and it says that the one who struggles the Beinoni, who every day has to wake up to another challenge, has to wake up to, oh my God, how am I going to get over my impulses? The Tanya says in a certain way, the Beinoni, the one who struggles, the one who doesn't just live on cruise control, but the one who can overcome the vices and the imperfection of his or her being. That person in a certain way is greater than the tzaddik, than the holy holy or auspicious rabbi. Of course it's important to go into the Holy of Holies. Of course it's important to try the best you can, to pray hard, to learn hard. But my friends, the ultimate is to bring the Holy of Holies through living a life of meaning and purpose of doing the right thing. Bring it into the streets of Jerusalem. Bring it into your home and feast and enjoy your family, your wife. That's Judaism. There was a rabbi called Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was a tremendous sage. Rabbi Akiva saved Judaism. Yes, during this period, we'll talk about it next week, there were 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva who perished. And next week, we'll talk about it. You know something, my friends? Rabbi Akiva had 5 students who brought back Judaism to the world. And Rabbi Akiva, it says in the Gemara and Chagiga, in the Talmud, it says that there were 4 scholars who went into the Pardes, the spiritual garden, the secrets of the Torah. 4 of them. Only 1 of them came out okay, and that was Rabbi Akiva. You know why, it says the Talmud? Because nichnas b'shalom, yetzer b'shalom. He went in peace. He went in with harmony. He had a balance. And that's why, yetzer b'shalom, he could go out in peace. When we have balance, when we are able, and this is all from Judaism, we had it before anyone else, the yin and the yang, when we are able to involve ourselves in spirituality, go into the Holy of Holies, then we're able to take that spiritual energy and bring it into the physical world. That's what it means. And that's why Maimonides codifies this in his book of laws, the party of the high priest after Yom Kippur, when it in fact concluded. My friends, I want to tell you something fascinating. You know, every day between Passover and between Shavuos, the giving of the Torah, we count the Omer. That's what it's called. We count the Omer. Now, we have explained, we touched on it, Passover, we're very low. It's like a drug addict. We're breaking out of our addiction. We're breaking out of our mental captivity because we are slaves to our addictions. We're breaking out on Passover. That's why we have matzah. It's very, very low. We had to run out of Egypt, and we explained that the word matzah and chametz, matzah, you have to eat on Passover. Chametz, they're practically identical. They share the words mem and tzaddik. The difference between chametz and matzah is the difference between a hey and a ches. A hey is a broken line, and a ches is a complete line. You know what the difference between chametz and matzah is? 1 second. Because if you have flour and water, they're mixed together, you have 17 minutes and 59 seconds to get that out of the oven. If you take out the matzah out of the oven in 17 minutes and 59 seconds, it's great. 1 more second, no good. You know why? Because when you have an addiction, you got to break out of Egypt. You got to get out of that addiction. That addiction is crippling. That addiction is going to hold you back. Comes along God and liberates the Jewish people at precisely the right moments. So we get out of Egypt. 49 days later, on the 50th day, we have to count Omer, first Omer. We have to count every night the Omer. On the 50th day, guess what? On the 50th day, we get the Torah. Who knows what sacrifice was brought on the 50th day? You know what sacrifice? 2 loaves of bread. Excuse me? If you ate the bread on Passover, hey, we don't do that. Why? 70% of American Jews observe the Seder. We know about Passover. This is our festival. You want us to eat bread on Passover? You crazy? We don't do that, man. So why is it that 50 days later, on the 50th day on Shavuos in the temple of old, they offered up 2 loaves of bread Why? Bread's bad. It's puffed up. When Passover happens, matzah, I get it. We're on a low level. It's humble. It's bread of affliction. I get it. We got a problem. We got to deal with the reality of our problem. But through Sversa Omer, we grow and we grow and we grow and we perfect ourselves. And we're going to speak about that very shortly. On the 50th day, we can eat bread. And not only eat bread, it's a mitzvah to have bread. You know why? Because self-esteem is critical to all of us. Self-esteem is not a bad thing. It's a holy thing. If you feel good about yourself, you don't want to mess up your life. If you feel good about overcoming the impulses and the challenges that haunt you, you know something? There was a student of the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad rabbi, the one who wrote the book, the Tonia. And this student said, I'm not going to do a sin. Yeah. I'm a student of the Alter Rebbe. You want me to do a sin and mess it up? When you feel good about yourself, when you know that you are a good person and you work so hard, why mess it up? Self-esteem is so important. You know how you raise a kid? You tell the kid, es pas nicht. 3 Yiddish words, es pas nicht. It's beneath you. Yo, what are you doing? You're a good kid. Why would you screw up your life by doing this? Doesn't make sense. When you have self-esteem, it's okay to have bread. It's okay to be puffed up and to realize you have good qualities. But it takes 49 days of counting the Omer to get there. And that's what we're going to explain tonight. My friends, there are 3 opinions about counting the Omer. In the time of the temple, they would cut the Memocharas HaShabbos, the day after Passover. The next night, the second night of the Seder, they would cut the Omer, the barley, and they would then offer some up. It would be the first sacrifice and would allow the other crops to be eaten. And then on the 50th day, they would bring the wheat sacrifice, the first wheat sacrifice. Okay. This fits in perfectly. Why? Because you start off barley. Barley is animal fodder. It's animal food. You find that in other places in the Torah. I love barley. My grandfather used to love barley, David Miller, but barley is animal food. We start off low and coarse. And 49 days later, we have changed ourselves. We have channeled our character development to a point where we can now have bread, and it's a mitzvah to have bread. My friends, we do this through a process of Sversa Omer. We're going to explain that very shortly. But before, I just want to share with you, there are 3 opinions as to today, is it an obligation, a Torah obligation to count Sversa Omer? There is the opinion of Maimonides in the Sefer HaChinuch that it is a Torah obligation. Even though we don't have a temple, you are still commanded to count the Omer. Okay. There's another opinion of Tosfos and Menachos in the Tractate of Menachos in the Talmud, and he says, no, we don't have a temple. It's totally rabbinic. There's a third opinion of Rabbeinu Yerucham, and the third opinion of Rabbeinu Yerucham is the days are a Torah commandment. The weeks are merely rabbinic. Rabbeinu Yerucham takes from the opinion of Rambam and the opinion of Tosfos, and he puts them together. Comes along the Rebbe, and the Rebbe explains, what does this spiritually mean? And the Rebbe has an incredible answer. The Rebbe's answer is revolutionary because it gives so much hope. It gives so much comfort to each and every one of us. And the Rebbe said this in 1951, when the Rebbe took over the mandate of the Chabad movement, when it was a small group of men who were Holocaust survivors, who were sadly, after the ashes, the crematoria of the Holocaust, a small group of men were able to transform the world. And the embers were still ablaze. And the Rebbe in 1951 offered up this deep, wonderful explanation of Rabbeinu Yerucham. You know, we believe that excuses are for losers. I'm sorry. If you really believe in something, you make it happen. If there's no street, you pave one. If there's no bridge, you build one. If there is no answer, you find one. We believe that you can, you must, and you will be successful. Even though we're finite, even though we're physical beings, because it says in one place in the Torah, count 49 days. It says another place in the Torah, on the 50th day you'll have Shavuos. Hey, last time I checked, 7 times 7 is 49, not 50. And the answer is explained very beautifully in Hasidic philosophy. You do your part. You count the 49 days, you improve yourself, you make yourself a better person. And then God will give you the 50th day. You do everything you can. Don't take excuses as a opportunity to get out of something. Feel it in your heart. Make sure that you truly believe it. And when you do, guess what? You'll make it to the mountain. You'll make it to Sinai, and you'll get the Torah. And you know, the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad rabbi, he had a son called Avram Chaim. And once the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Rebbe, he met him, and he was crying. And the Rebbe Marash said, hey, why are you crying? He was a holy man, Avram Chaim. And he said, you know why? Because I'm an elderly man. And 49 days I counted the Yoma, and I don't see the 50th level. Here you have a person who is holy, he's immersed in holiness and goodness, and it bothers him that he doesn't see the 50th level. Let me share with you a beautiful explanation of what the Rebbe does with the third opinion of Rabbeinu Yerucham. Every person has 7 emotions. There are 7 days in the week. Each day represents a different emotion. Each day of creation represents a different attribute. First day of creation is kindness, chesed, the first one of the emotions. You don't have kindness, you can't have a world. God created the heavens and the earth. The second day of creation is gevura. Gevura means separation. God split the water above and the water below. Doesn't say it was good the second day. The third day is Tiferes, beauty. It says twice it was good. Each day is a different emotion. There are 7 emotions, and each emotion is a week. So when we count Sfiras Omer, we start off with the emotion of kindness. That emotion is broken into each of the 7 emotions. There's chesed, kindness, gevura, which means severity, discipline. Tiferes is beauty, culmination, bringing things together. Netzach is victory, endurance. Hod is splendor, beauty. Yesod is communication, bringing everything together. And finally, Malchus, the last day, the Shabbat, that is sovereignty, that is leadership, humility. 7 emotions. Each week, 7 weeks, has its emotion. And each day is broken into a subset of one of the 7 emotions. Thus, it's 49 days of self-refinement, 49 days of improving yourself. And the Rebbe says, you know why Rabbeinu Yerucham says that it's only the days are an obligation from the Torah, but the week is not an obligation? Of course we do it, but it's not a Torah obligation. The Rebbe says, because we have to count and we have to improve ourselves individually. Do you think you're going to master an entire attribute? That's lofty. We're not on that level right now. But do what you can, even though you have your impulses and your skeletons in your closets and things you have to grapple with, things which are trying to hold you back in Egypt, in captivity, in addiction, in being a slave to your impulses. You try your best. You count 49 days. You squeeze the most out of life. And when you squeeze the most out of life, when you do what you're supposed to do, you'll make it to Sinai. You'll make it to the giving of the Torah. Don't believe. Don't believe for a second. It's everything or nothing. That's not what we believe. We believe to get to Sinai, to get to the mountain, guess what? 49 individual days, each mitzvah, each good deed, each character refinement you accomplish is profound. Each day is breathing with meaning and purpose. Yeah, maybe you won't have the entire week. Maybe you won't be able to conquer the complete attribute of each individual week, but each day, live it to the most you can. Suck as much as you can out of life. Squeeze everything you can. And the ones we dedicated the class to, please know that we're here to make the most of our existence. And maybe you've heard me say it, but I can't help it. You know what the most important part of a tombstone is, a mitzvah? It's the dash. When the person was born, the year, when the person died, the dash, how every moment you squeeze as much as you can out of creation. That's what counts. Your individual 49 days, which we're going to speak about. My friends, the Sefer HaChinuch, an incredible scholarly book. He brings the reasons for the 613 commandments. In the Sefer HaChinuch, he asks an incredible question. He says, why is it that when you count the Omer, if we start off Passover, getting out of Egypt, we're on a low level, matzah, then we count 49 days later, and we get the 50th level, it's a gift from God. He asks an incredible question. He says, I don't get it. Just don't get it. If you're excited for your birthday, for example, you count, there's 49 days to my birthday. Now, the next day, there's 48, and then there's 47. Why do we count the opposite? Why do we say today is the first night of the Yom? Tomorrow, we say it's the second night of the Yom. We count up. Why is it that we count up, we gear up? We should be counting down. We should be eliminating days until we finally are on top of Mount Sinai. What's going on? There is such a beautiful answer. The answer is so profound. The answer is, my friends, what we are trying to do is we are trying to perfect. We are trying to every day live the most of those 49 individual aspects. And therefore, it's not just about getting to Sinai. There's a process. In Judaism, it's not about the end result. In Judaism, it's about the process. In the Talmud, you have questions, answers, doesn't stop. But that's the whole point. In Judaism, it's the process. It is not just getting the answer to the math problem. It's how do you get the answer to the math problem. And that's what Sfiras HaOmer is. Sfiras HaOmer is a process by which each and every one of us is able to grow. We're able to leave our own personal Egypts behind. We're able to grow. And that's why the word Sfiras HaOmer, the word Sfira means to shine. In Hebrew, the word is a sapphire, saper. Each and every one of us, if we refine ourselves, if we overcome our challenges and the impulses in our hearts, we're able to shine. We're able to reach our complete potential. And that is something which is very, very important and profound. We treasure the individual moment. We believe that every moment is precious. What happened in the past happened. But now, right now, we are able to overcome. We are able to find balance, not just in the Holy of Holies, but even in the party at the high priest's home after Yom Kippur. It's not enough to enjoy spirituality. There has to be the idea of bringing that holiness into the mundane, making the physical world a holy place by acting in the most appropriate ways. That is the ultimate. That is our opportunity to shine through our growth. And therefore, it's not about getting rid of the day, 49 days, 48 days, and counting down to the receiving of the Torah. It's about climbing the mountain. It's about doing everything we can and squeezing everything out of creation. I want to share with you an incredible idea. Incredible. The Rebbe speaks about, do you say that Sfiras HaOmer is one mitzvah which has 49 parts, 49 days? Do you say that? Or do you say it's 49 separate mitzvahs? What do you say Sfiras HaOmer in reality is? Now, I want to ask you a question. Fascinating question. If you say that it is 49 separate commandments, 49 separate mitzvahs, then tell me this. Why is it if tonight's the fifth night, which it isn't, of the Yoma, and I forgot to count, on the sixth night, if it's 49 separate mitzvahs, why can't I make a blessing? Because each day is a mitzvah to itself. So why am I disqualified if I forget the fifth night of the Yoma? Hey, the sixth night is a separate mitzvah. So the Rebbe says, we believe that each day of the Yoma is a mitzvah. 49 mitzvahs. If that's the case, it's 49 mitzvahs. Then why is it, my friends, that if you miss a day, you're disqualified from counting the next day? Why? Each day is independent of the other. So the Rebbe says, halachically, it makes sense. Because if I didn't count the fifth night, how can I say the next night? It's the sixth night. I'm contradicting myself because in my own personal counting, it is not the sixth night. I only counted 5 so far. That's why you count. So I want to share with you 2 fascinating lessons. First lesson, each day, each mitzvah, each moment is precious and independent of whatever happened before that and whatever happened after that. That is what it explains in the Tonia, that the Beinoni, the one who struggles, the one who is bombarded by a barrage of impulses and challenges, in a way, that person is greater than the tzaddik, the holy man who's on cruise control, who has this godly soul, who just naturally does so many wonderful, great, glorified, good deeds and studies so much Torah and has no inclination to do anything bad. The person who is imperfect, who struggles, who fights, who tries to make the most of whatever resources they have, that person is greater. You know why? Because that person is real. And that person is overcoming their challenges and their vices and their hang-ups and their Egyptian limitations, their impulses, their addictions. That person is much, much greater in a certain way than the holy man who doesn't even know what it means to have an addiction, to have a problem, and to have an imbalance. Having balance, having this spirituality and living it and bringing it into the physical world, that is Judaism. That is Sfiras HaOmer. Not just having one attribute, but 7 emotions. And each emotion is made up of the other 6. That's the balance. That's Judaism. That's holiness. That's how you get the Torah. Now, it's very easy for a person to say, well, I belong to the Jewish people. I feel very Jewish. I give money to Israel. If the rabbi asks me to put on tefillin, to light Shabbos candles, yeah, I'll do it. But hey, I'm not religious. No. Secret Torah teaches you whatever you do is a mitzvah. 49 individual mitzvahs. Each day counts. Each moment is precious. Don't say it's everything or nothing. No. Every moment God is recreating the world. Every moment you have a purpose. You have an opportunity to go for the gold, to go for the top, for the best. And that's what we need to do. That's our mission. That's our tachlis, our purpose in this world. That we, on an individual level, can continue the Jewish people. And my friends, that's why, when God gave the Torah, God said it in the individual. When on 10 Commandments, on the 50th day at Sinai, God didn't say, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am Hashem, your God, plural. He said, Ani Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem, your singular God. There were millions of people there. What's God? He knows Hebrew grammar. He uses the individual, not the group grammar word, but rather for each individual. Each individual counts. Each individual is integral. Each individual has to climb the mountain and has to go through life and overcome their own hang-ups and problems. And that is precious to God. Don't discount the individual. Don't discount, hey, I've done this and I've done that, and now I feel like, whoa, it's not going to make a difference. I don't want to be a hypocrite. No. Everything you do is precious. Find balance, find meaning, find purpose. Just take whatever you can out of life, out of your existence, and make the most of it. I want to share with you something for me which is very precious. The Alter Rebbe, this Chabad rabbi, he used to speak on the Sabbath, on Shabbos, and on Yom Tov on the festivals. And of course, we don't write down on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So people used to take his Torah, and after Shabbos, they would record it, they would write it down. When Yitzhak and Sarah got married 4 years ago, Kai Nahara, they had a special pamphlet. They had a special maimah, Hasidic discourse, which was hidden from the world for over 200 years. It was in a bichel, it was in a book, and this book had been lost and wasn't recorded, and no one had this, and it was finally published. They got married just before Pesach on the 9th day of Nisan. What happened was there was something in this bichel, and it was incredible because it was kept a secret for so many years. And I want to share it with you now, and I think it's very relevant, and there's a reason why it was just discovered now. So we should learn it, and we should share it, and we should have meaning, and it should help us as we come out of quarantine, as we come out of isolation, just like the high priest. The ultimate is to make it into the home and walk the streets of Jerusalem and celebrate. And that's why Maimonides records it in his book of Mishnah Torah. So what did it say in this bichel? What did it say in this maimah, this Hasidic discourse, which was finally published? This is an amazing thing. It says, there's a big difference between Shvi Shel Pesach, the 7th day of the Passover, and between the giving of the Torah. So it says, on the 7th day of Passover, the sea split, and it says that what a shivcha, what a simple maidservant saw at the splitting of the sea, even Ezekiel, Yecheskel, didn't see with the miracle of the dried bones, the resurrection of the dead. Ezekiel saw the bones come back to life. So that's what it says in the Talmud. It says it. So what's fascinating is that by the 7th day of Passover, it says that all the Jewish people experienced the same miracle. Moses and the maidservant, they all saw the same thing. You know why? Because it was a present from God. God gave it to them from above to below. The revelation was there, it was given to everyone equally. They didn't do anything. Yeah, they went out of Egypt. But guess what? They all saw the same thing. But after 49 days, after counting Sfiras HaOmer, after trying to improve your own individual and personal imperfection, because we all have issues. When you get the 49th day, guess what? Moses and Aaron, they were allowed high up on the mountain. You know why? Because Moses and Aaron had worked on themselves to a level where they were privy to going on the mountain. The maidservant, she didn't come with them on the mountain. You know why? Because the maidservant just wasn't on the level to get on the mountain. But when you work on yourself, and when you perfect yourself, and when you grow on your own spiritual level, when you overcome those imperfections, when you go through Sfiras HaOmer in a way that is real and meaningful and personalized, then you, on your level, can advance on a higher level. And if you're Moses and you reach your perfection, you could go up higher on the mountain. If you're Aaron, you go up on the mountain a little less, but guess what? He went up too. My friends, everyone needs to advance. Everyone needs to grow. Someone who's going up in a certain way is greater than someone who's much higher, but he's going down. Every day in life, we have to grow. Every day in life, a business is successful if it grows, not if it's stagnant, not if it loses customers. It has to grow. We are alive. We are in this world, like we said, to squeeze everything we can out of it. Not to let time just vanish and count down. 49 days, 48 days, 47. What did I do? Who knows? I got to make it to 50. No. It says we got to count up. We got to squeeze as much as we can out of every day. Every moment is precious. We can, we will, and we must prevail. My friends, we will advance. We will grow. And we will all make it to our greatest potential. Hashem should bless all of us that we can get out of isolation, we can get out of quarantine, and enough. Genug shein. No one needs to suffer. No one needs to feel so scared and paralyzed with fear. We are not alone. Hashem is with us. Fear is not real. Pain is real. No one should have pain. But fear is the imagination of the individual. Because if you are truly, truly connected with a higher power, you won't fall down. And just to conclude, to have a rabbi and not to tell a story is impossible. I got to conclude with the story. And I said the story recently at the Lincoln Theater. The Lincoln Theater is a restored theater. And there was Chabad, we belong to Adam H. And Adam H helps people with addictions and mental illness. And I was very proud. I was the only Jew in the entire assembled hundreds of people had come to speak about addiction. And there were people from all denominations and from all walks of life. And I was the only Jew in the room. And they asked me to speak. And I got up and I said, my friends, I got to tell you a story. There was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi of Premezhlan. And I went in 1990, Tavshin Nun. Before I got married, I went to the city of Premezhlan. It is incredibly hilly. And I went to the city of Premezhlan, and there I saw Reb Meir's, the holy Reb Meir, his mitzvah, his tombstone was shattered. The communists, they broke it. And I remembered the story. that once Ramaiya, he was an old man, he was 80 years old. And every morning he would climb up a hill to go to the mikveh. One morning in the horrible winter, in this Ukrainian city of Przemyśl, people came to him and said, don't go, don't go. 2 18-year-old boys, they tried climbing the mountain, they fell down. And they are in critical condition. You're 80 years old. Tata zisse, geh nicht, don't go, it's dangerous. You're 80 years old. 18-year-old healthy young boys can't do it. How are you going to get up to the mountain? And he said, I'm going. And there he started walking. He went up the mountain. And woe and behold, when he went up the mountain, nothing happened. He went to the mikveh and he came back down the mountain and he was safe. And they said, Rebbe, you did a miracle. And he said, no, I didn't do a miracle. So how did you go up the mountain? How did you make it to the top? He said, if you're connected to something higher, you won't fall down. My friends, we're just about to conclude. And I want to tell you something. If we're connected to something higher, if we have a higher reason, a higher purpose in life, if we have a reason to get up in the morning and to do more and to connect to our God, if we are here in this world for a purpose, for a reason, we won't fall down. To have the impulses, to have the struggle, that's human, that's life. We can, we must, and we will trudge our way up the mountain of life. We will make it to the top, to the peak of the mountain. We can, we shall, and we will leap, plunge, and charge through all of our challenges and all of our loved ones who physically passed away. They're with us, and we're not just trudging up the mountain ourselves. We're on their backs. They're carrying us, and we will all succeed. I want to wish you all a wonderful Sfer Sa'oma. This festival is so meaningful. It's saturated in purpose and meaning. I want to wish you all a wonderful, wonderful time as we grow together and we reach the mountain of Sinai. All the best.